We're back, and it's good to see you.
You too, Scott. I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to this topic. This is a valuable topic.
Yeah, and a favorite of yours, right? This will be fun. I don't think about this topic too much myself, but it's a good one. The elevator pitch, but not so much. You have that phrase does not sit well with you. Why?
I don't like it. I don't like the word pitch. I feel it's a salesy word. And I feel that if that's our mindset, I have to give an elevator pitch. It's more around, I have to sell myself. I have to sell my value of who I am. So I think of it more as it's your own branding statement. It's your value statement. So when you're asked, what do you do? Or tell me about you. This could be at a networking event. This could be at a dinner party. It could even be sitting in a conference room and everyone's going around the table introducing themselves.
Yeah.
How can we explain who we are and what we do, and not, first of all, let's not sound like everybody else and not feel like we have to sell ourselves.
So, yeah, what do we do? That is perfect. We don't sell ourselves. And the other thing is you don't want to just get like droning verbose, like go on forever too. It's got to be pretty tight, right?
Yes. It's short, succinct, it's crisp. I'll give an example.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, when I launched my coaching business around presentation skills, I did a ton of networking. I would go to in-person, this was before 2020, I would go to a ton of in-person networking events. And you are asked at least 20 times, what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
And I realized every time I was asked that question, it felt uncomfortable for me. I did not like being asked. I didn't want to feel like I had to prove who I was or the value that I provided. So I came up with something different. And I use it in a lot of different scenarios, Scott. So maybe this will be helpful for others.
Okay. Well, do tell. What do you do?
So when I'm asked that question, here's one response I will give. I will say, I show professionals how to get rid of boring presentations. And it's this short one-liner. And do you know what ends up happening?
What?
I'm asked a question.
Yeah.
So now I've created a dialogue with this person versus me talking for 2 minutes and dumping my resume on them.
Yeah.
And it's also more memorable. I'll give another example around this because there's different scenarios. I used to attend Chamber of Commerce events, and there would be 25 of us in a room sitting at a round table, and every meeting at the beginning, we would go around the entire table and give your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Scott, I dreaded this. Absolutely dreaded. And when I knew my turn was coming up, my heart is racing, my hands are sweating, I was a mess. And I'm a presentation coach.
Yeah, right.
So that's when I decided I have to do this differently. So when it was my turn, instead of giving that boring, I'm Jennifer Beaumont, I'm a presentation skills coach, I would tell a very short story.
Yeah.
I would stand up and I would say, last week, I was working with a client who struggles with XYZ. And I would give a very short story which painted a picture around what I do, what I offer, what I provide, what I help solve. It absolutely changed that question. Tell me what you do.
Yeah, that's great. In stories, if people, let's make sure our listeners understand, you can tell a story in 3 parts, you can do it in 6 to 10 sentences. It doesn't have to be super long, right? It's not some long story. It's, last week I helped a customer who was struggling with this. We worked on this way. By the end of working together, they were
3 sentences. Three sentences.
You're there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, Scott, you stand apart. You're doing something different, because I guarantee you the rest of the group is saying their name and title first.
Yeah.
Versus a short story. And then you can say your name and title after that.
Yeah.
It's reversing it, and it's really powerful.
Yeah. I love that. I think you helped distinguish two kinds of elevator pitches, two kinds of introductions. One is in a conversational situation.
One-on-one.
It's so funny because I would say either I help people talk well.
Yeah.
I just say that. And of course, people are curious. It's the best emotion in a listener is curiosity. It's like,
they're going to come back and say, what do you mean?
Right.
How do you do that?
Oh, they're riveted, right? That's what you want. So
they are riveted, and they're going to remember you, Scott.
Yeah. And I love that. And then you can go into a conversation and it's just as much about listening to their response to you and who they are, because then you can relate what you do to them and all that stuff. I love the other part too, using a story, because that in that situation where there's 25 people and it can't be a verbal back and forth kind of thing. The story is a fantastic way of drawing people in. It's probably the most potent way to do it.
It really is.
I remember going to an event where I was asked to introduce myself to, and I didn't tell a story, but I did put out like a provocative statement. Something like, most speaking coaches will teach you techniques. I don't do any of that. And then I followed it with some explanation. I base my approach on this. Sometimes it's a provocative question. I mean, there's other
statistic. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's other ways you can play around with this a little bit. But I think the easiest entryway, to be honest, is what you described. I think that's great. The story, the story of helping a client and illustrating your value.
Well, and not only that, it also you can build a tip into that story. So now you're providing value to the audience or to the group that you're in front of. You're actually providing value of what it is that you do. And maybe it's something that they can use as well. It's really a sure way to stand apart. One other tip that it takes courage, however, you won't regret it, is if you're asked who'd like to start, boom, raise your hand, get it over with, be the first.
Get into it. Yeah, right. So you can
first to start, because then you can relax and truly listen to everyone else.
Yeah. All right. Any thoughts to wrap this one with?
Yes. Come up with your own branding statement that provides it expresses the value of what you provide. And this could be you're in the elevator. Here's the elevator part. You're in the elevator and a leader walks in and says, "Hey, what do you do?" And you have that one-liner. You have that one-liner. That value-driven one-liner that says what you do, versus stumbling and rambling and getting off the elevator saying, "What did I just say to that person?"
Yeah. And distinguish, I think, I would say distinguish between those two different kinds of introductions. If you are in that elevator with that executive that walks in, it's a conversation. Don't fall back into some scripted kind of thing. Have your one line, know that, you practice it, say it to yourself over and over again until you really committed it to your mind. And then know that you want to share it and start a conversation. And that first line should elicit a curious reaction.
It should. curious and excitement.
Yeah.
At the same time.
All right. Next week, we are talking about what?
Posture.
Posture. That's right. How you hold your body when you speak.
Makes a big difference.
That's right. And we will be sure to sit up straight for that one.
We always do.
All right, everybody. I hope you're sitting up straight too. If you're not, we'll forgive you. Have a great week. See you next time.
Take care.